Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here this morning to see the extensive changes that are being undertaken here at the Marabastad Refugee Reception Center. As you could see, we are undertaking these extensive changes in order to introduce a completely paperless process, which is going to improve the efficiency and the professionalism of the center, ensure that we manage our asylum seeker processes with professionalism and in accordance with the human rights ethos of our constitution and country, in line with the international conventions to which we have signed up, but also to reduce drastically and eventually to eliminate the levels of bribery and corruption as well as organized crime, which have for quite a long time been associated with this center. We have shut down the Tiro Reception Center, which was at the Pretoria Showgrounds. We've moved all our staff to this center. We are now in the process of rationalizing their deployment so that we ensure that we decide what numbers are we going to remain with at this center and how we are going to deploy others to the other reception centers, including, if necessary, at our civic offices. And so the department is going to introduce these measures. We hope to complete this process by the end of October this year so that we can open up this new revamped office, which will now be paperless. The services are going to be streamlined. As you could see, we've put a number of managers, operations managers on the ground so that we assist the flow of the applications. We make the processes of coming to the office themselves to be paperless. We're introducing an online booking system for people to come and be captured and then see the refugee status determination officers. And once that has happened, even the process, if for some reason the decisions on their application has not been made, or they have appealed to the Refugee Appeals Board or the Standing Committee for Refugee Affairs, we have made the extensions of their permits to be paperless so that people can self-extend using the kiosks, which we are going to roll out throughout the country. The other advantage of this system we're introducing is that it's going to enable somebody who filed their application here to have their file already established and not to get lost as soon as the application is done. We are going to introduce more efficient translation services, which will ensure that neither the applicant has an influence on the translator, nor does the translator have an influence on the applicant, which creates a system of mutual corruptibility between the two, and which also could make our own officials vulnerable to participating in the processes of corruption involving the translations, because we want these processes to be extremely credible, to have integrity so that they can be trusted. Once the decision is made, it must be trusted by everybody involved. It is also important to mention that at this center, just in 2015, there were about 10 people who were arrested through our Operation Visa Masina for involvement in bribery and corruption. The interesting thing is that, and the good thing is that all these 10 people, none of them was an official of the department. It doesn't necessarily mean that the officials of the department are not involved in bribery and corruption. It just does mean that we can have greater faith in the officials of the department and how they are conducting themselves. But the second thing that I need to emphasize is that we are undertaking extensive management upskilling of our officials in terms of the country information, so that the decisions that they take are well informed and are credible, but also just in terms of the operations of the center. We're not focusing only on the managers, we're also focusing on the frontline officers. As you could see, in the office, at every section, whether at the outside sections, at the refugee reception section or the status determination section, we have cameras that are monitoring the operations of the officials. We have ensured that the managers of the different units are on the ground and are able to see and monitor what's going on at the level of the service rendered by each official. So we thought it's necessary to provide this update because there have been a lot of concerns raised about this center, the corruption, a lot of which has been fortunate. We are going to demonstrate the bona fide of the department in dealing with the challenges of corruption and inefficiency that are involved here. But also we are going to demonstrate to our clients the steps that we are taking to improve the services that we render to them and provide them with a service that is professional and corruption-free. Because for the genuine asylum seekers, who are our principal concern as the department, the extent to which we can offer them a seamless, speedy, and efficient and professional service which is without corruption will determine the extent to which they can be provided with safety and security when they are in the country. Because people would have come far and wide to South Africa in the hope that South Africa is going to provide them with the security which they have been deprived in their countries of origin. For the genuine asylum seekers, we wish to assure them that we are doing all we can to provide them with that speedy and efficient, professional and corruption-free service, to provide them with the security which they need in our country. But for those who are not genuine asylum seekers, the system is obviously going to kick them out. Those who just want to apply for asylum and not come for adjudication, the system is going to pick them up and kick them out. We will ensure that they receive the necessary attention from our inspectors, and they will obviously be deported. For those who are economic migrants using the asylum system in order to regularize their stay in South Africa, we wish to discourage them from now going forward from trying to enter the system in that way. We are going, in terms of the new international migration policy framework, to develop a specific proposals for economic migrants, particularly from the SADC region, which will ensure that we can take the burden of being irregular away from the economic migrants, provide them with regularization. Obviously, it will not be everybody, but to some extent, we will try to provide a policy framework to guide us in terms of regularizing the stay in South Africa of economic migrants from the SADC region. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
Mr. Minister, can I quickly ask, do you think the changes that you saw today, that's enough to address these concerns about bribery and corruption that has characterized the center?
The changes are enough. They will go a long way because, to start with, there isn't going to be a queue outside the center. Secondly, anybody who enters the center will enter the center, one, on the basis of an online booking, which means that your fingerprints will have been captured. As you could see, whether you are coming if you are coming to make a booking at the center, you are going to make your booking and exit without entering the center itself. But if you have been provided with a date for an interview and for capturing of your biodata, you will now rely on your fingerprint to access all the sections. So if you don't have your fingerprints captured, you are not going to have access to the center. You will have to go out, and there is no official who will be able to assist you, because the process of making the online booking is going to exclude anybody from within the department who could in the past assist you to gain access to the center. So we believe they are going to go a long way, but it's also going to be very helpful because you will only come to the center when your date and time for your interview has been set. So there isn't going to be anybody who is just standing outside hoping for some luck that I can be able to enter the center. For you to enter the center, you must have an appointment on this date at this particular time. Your fingerprints must have been captured, and that means that without all of these systems collaborating, you have absolutely no access to the center, and whatever other criminal is available outside there is not going to be able to assist you. Please.
Honourable Minister, I'm concerned a bit about it. It's a bit related to this, the minors, and quite a number of them have problems getting into school for the next school year because of their status. And with the recent developments, the Home Affairs Department accepting that they will have citizenship or some more stable status in the country, what provisions are being made for the minors? Well,
the system is going to be available to everybody, the minors included. And the fact that it is an online system, it's an electronic and paperless system, means it's going to be much faster than the system that we have been utilizing at the present moment, which means that minors are going to also be able to be attended speedily. The system has got capability for parents traveling with families. They've got it's got capabilities even to deal with minors traveling alone, and we will be able to take the minors who are traveling alone and provide them with the service that's going to address their concerns and issues. Because, you know, at the present moment, the department does not capture the fingerprints of the minors, but we do have the capability to attend to the minors. Our officials are well trained to be able to do that.
Minister, just to reply on this two questions, please. When will this system be fully operational? And secondly, on the issue of having these centers at the port of entry, when do you think South Africa will be ready to have this port of entry, these centers like this one at the port of entry? When someone comes in, they can also seek asylum at the border as they come in.
The system is going to be, this office is going to be opened on the 10th, in October, which means that from November going forward, it's going to be fully operational. We will then begin the process of rolling out the systems that you see here in Durban and in other refugee reception centers around the country. When the resources permit, and once the new Refugees Amendment Act is approved in Parliament and signed into law by the President, we will now begin the process of establishing the centers next to the ports of entry, so that people can make their bookings there and only come to these centers when the bookings are already confirmed. So I cannot yet give a firm date for when the centers will be opened at the ports of entry, but what we can say is that as soon as all the legislative processes have been fulfilled, within the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to begin the processes of establishing these centers next to the ports of entry. But you must also bear in mind that the biggest port of entry in South Africa, which is Beitbridge, already has a refugee reception center. In regard to Beitbridge, all that we now need to do is to install this paperless system, ensure that it functions well, so that we can now look at what other ports of entry receive large numbers of asylum seekers.
Question in the back. Minister, just two questions from me. I understand earlier when the allegations of corruption emanated from this office, a queuing system was abolished in favor of a centralized one, where the clients would put their names in some sort of a box, then for a random pick up. Is that still the case in the interim before this system comes to life? And secondly, has that system worked for you? Have you seen a reduction of complaints about bribery?
Look, the systems that we have introduced in the interim have assisted us. They're not robust enough, and that's why we are so eager to complete the processes that we are undertaking here, because we do not want our clients to experience the types of challenges which they have experienced previously. But neither do we want our officials to experience the types of large volumes of applications which we are experiencing in our offices. And that is why we're introducing a number of interventions, some of which, or many of which involve a paperless service, one. Two, involve a service outside the reception center so that we can deal with people from as far away from the reception center office as possible. But the systems that we had introduced thus far are assisting us to some extent, and our anti-corruption unit, which is currently operating the Visa Masina operation, is assisting us also in paying close attention to issues of corruption and bribery which are taking place at our refugee reception centers.
I think we covered. Are there any other questions?
Just a separate question, if I can.
Is it about Pastor Anderson?
No. No, it's about the stateless children again. What will be happening in the next 18 months? And there's some children who are stuck right now. You know, they can't do anything, like go to school, as I said earlier, in the next 18 months for them.
The Department of Home Affairs, I mean, there are laws in the country that deal with statelessness, and the department is paying attention to that challenge. Obviously, it's not a challenge that we can look at on our own. We are in discussions with the departments of social development, basic education, and other government departments in order to develop a comprehensive approach to deal with stateless children. But there is legislation that provides for how we should deal with stateless children, and the department is going to try as speedily as possible to ensure that there is clarity as to how we deal with the matter so that the children can carry on with their lives. We have, I must add, on a case-by-case basis, provided some of those children with South African documentation, some Angolan children and children from elsewhere, on those grounds that you can't ask them to go back to Angola now, but you can't keep them in South Africa without documentation. It now behoves the country to provide them with the documentation which is going to regularize them and make them to have a state which can provide them with all the rights and protection which they require.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.